Tonight, look up, and the moon is gone. Not new, not hidden behind cloud. Simply absent, and absent tomorrow, and absent every night after that. For the first time in more than 4 billion years, the Earth turns with no companion in the sky. And at first, almost nothing seems to happen. That is the most deceptive part of this whole story. For the first few hours, you might not even notice. The stars look a little lonelier. The night is darker than you remember it ever being. But far below that calm, in the deep machinery of the planet, the very first thing the moon ever gave us has already, silently, begun to fail.
Because the moon was never just a light in the sky. It is a quarter of the width of the Earth, a world in its own right, and its gravity has been shaping this planet since long before there was anything alive to notice. Take the moon away, and you pull on a single thread that runs through almost everything.
This is the thought experiment. We do not chase 100 questions at once. We take one impossible thing, and we follow it all the way down. Real physics where we have it, and an honest, we do not know where we don't. So the moon is gone. Let us follow the thread, from the first quiet hours to the deep future.
Start with gravity. The Earth and the moon are locked in a slow gravitational embrace, each pulling on the other across roughly 380,000 kilometers of empty space. That pull is gentle, but it is utterly relentless. And over billions of years, it has set the rhythm of our seas and helped steady the spin of our world.
The clearest sign of that pull is the tide. Twice a day, the oceans swell toward the moon and then fall away again, a vast, slow breath of water that every coastline on Earth has answered for as long as there have been coasts at all. We barely think about it. It is simply the sea, doing what the sea does.
The moon raises most of that tide, a little under 2/3 of it. The sun, vastly larger but far away, raises the rest. So when the moon vanishes, the tides do not stop completely. Instead, they collapse to about 1/3 of their former range. The ocean's great breath becomes a shallow, half-hearted sigh all over the world at once.
And that matters far more than it sounds. The rise and fall of the tide stirs the shallows, drags nutrients up from the deep, and carves the rich, crowded edge of the ocean where most sea life is actually found. Weaken that breath, and the most fertile zone on the planet slowly, quietly begins to starve.
There is something else hidden in that embrace. The moon carries most of the spin of the entire Earth and moon system. And for billions of years, it has been gently breaking our rotation, slowly stretching the length of the day. That long, patient hand resting on the planet's spin is, the moment the moon vanishes, suddenly lifted away.
So picture all of it together. The light in the night sky, the breath of the tides, the break on our spinning world, every bit of it tied to one grey companion we have always treated as a backdrop. We put it on postcards. We wrote it into love songs. And the whole time, quietly, it was holding things in place.
Now, some of what changes happens fast enough to watch within a human lifetime. And some of it unfolds across a span of time so vast that no person will ever see the end of it. So let us take them in order, carefully. First, the changes that begin in the very first hours after the moon disappears.
The first hours are strangely calm. There is no shock wave, no darkening of the sun, no crack of thunder across the sky. The Earth simply keeps turning. The clouds keep drifting. But out on the open ocean, the water that should be climbing toward a moon that is no longer there simply, gently, fails to rise.
Within a single tidal cycle, the difference is already measurable. The high tides arrive noticeably lower. The low tides no longer pull back as far. In the great estuaries and mudflats, The line the water has drawn on the land for thousands of years begins to shift, creeping inland and shrinking in on itself.
Over the first weeks, the world's coastlines quietly redraw themselves. Vast intertidal zones, the hidden nurseries of the sea, are left either stranded high and dry or permanently drowned. And the countless creatures that timed their entire lives to the tide discover that the ancient clock they lived by has changed its beat and will never change back.
The seas grow quieter in another way, too. The tidal currents that once flushed out bays and mixed warm surface water with the cold below begin to slacken. Some shallow waters turn still and stagnant. The ocean does not die, but its restless, life-giving churn winds down into something far slower and far stranger than before.
And then there are the nights. A full moon is bright enough to read by, bright enough to throw your shadow across the ground. Remove it, and the dark becomes something modern humans have almost never truly known. Night after night, the land lies in a blackness, broken only by the cold, distant pinpricks of the stars.
For countless living things, that darkness is a quiet catastrophe. Corals that spawn together on a single moonlit night fall out of step. Sea turtle hatchlings that follow the bright horizon down to the surf lose their way entirely. Moths, plankton, hunters, and hunted alike, a billion routines tuned to moonlight that nobody ever designed, all begin to come apart at once.
It is strange to think that the soft, romantic light we write poems about is, for half the living world, a clock, a compass, and a map all at once. We saw beauty in it. They depended on it for their very survival. Take it down from the sky, and you do not dim the world. You unmoor it.
Back in the oceans, the weakened tides keep taking their toll. Salt marshes and mangroves that depend on the daily flood begin to dry out or drown. The shellfish beds thin, the fish that fed on them follow. A slow unpicking works its way up the food chain, season after season, year after quiet year.
On land, people begin to notice. The fishing fleets come home lighter. The great tidal estuaries that once fed whole civilizations grow unreliable. The festivals, the calendars, and the farming rhythms that humanity quietly borrowed from the moon no longer match the sky above. A thread that ran through all of human culture has gone slack in our hands.
And yet, through all of this, the Earth seen from space still looks almost normal. Blue, white, turning, the sun rising on schedule. The damage is real, but it is quiet, gathering at the edges of the sea and inside the habits of living things. Because the loudest changes of all are still ahead of us, waiting in the deep future.
Because the moon did far more than simply move the water around. It also held the very tilt of the Earth itself steady. And this is the moment where our story stops being about a single human lifetime and starts being about the deep future of the entire planet, measured not in years, but in millions of them.
The Earth spins on a tilted axis, leaning over at about 23.5 degrees. That tilt is the entire reason we have seasons at all. And for billions of years, the moon's steady gravitational pull has acted like a gentle hand, resting on a spinning top, keeping that lean remarkably, reliably stable.
Without the moon, that stability is no longer guaranteed. Computer models of a moonless Earth suggest the tilt could slowly begin to wander, nudged this way and that by the distant pull of the sun and the giant planets, drifting over millions of years into steep and shallow angles that this planet has simply never experienced before.
And the tilt is the thermostat of the seasons. Swing it low, and the difference between summer and winter nearly disappears into a gray sameness. Swing it high, and the poles themselves can tip to face the sun, baking under months of unbroken daylight, then plunging into endless freezing dark. the entire familiar pattern of climate becomes unrecognizable.
This is the part that is genuinely hard to hold in the mind. Not a single sudden disaster, but a slow, creeping loss of balance. A planet that kept an astonishingly even keel for most of its history, now left free to roll, over timescales so long that they dwarf the entire span of human civilization many times over.
Across those vast ages, the ice would come and go in stranger and stranger rhythms. Deserts might bloom green and then die again. The familiar map of the climate, the steady bands of forest and grassland and ice that we evolved within, would be redrawn over and over as the tilt of the world slowly, blindly wandered.
Life itself would not simply end. Life is stubborn, and 4 billion years of it have already survived a great deal, from frozen oceans to vast extinctions. But the gentle, stable cradle that once let complex creatures arise and then stay, that long and genuinely unusual calm, would have quietly been taken away from the world for good.
And with the moon's breaking hand suddenly gone, the slow lengthening of our day would stall. For aeons, the drifting moon has been gently stretching the day hour by hour across geological time. Once, billions of years ago, a single Earth day lasted only about 6 hours. Without the moon, that long patient change simply comes to a stop.
So the deep future of a moonless Earth is not fire or ice arriving in an instant. It is something quieter and sadder, a world set adrift from the careful balances it grew up inside, wandering through climates and seasons that no living thing has ever had to endure. And here, now, is the strangest twist in the whole story.
The moon is already leaving us. Right now, tonight, it is drifting away from the Earth at about 3.8 centimeters every year, roughly the speed at which your fingernails grow. Slowly, gently, across a future too vast to truly imagine, the moon was always going to loosen its ancient hold on this planet anyway.
So in a very real sense, the question was never if, but when. 1 billion years from now, and far beyond. The moon would already hang smaller in the sky. The tides would already be fading, its long stabilizing grip already weakening on its own. We are, it turns out, living in the brief golden age of having a moon.
And that ancient grip may be the very reason we are here at all. Many scientists suspect that the powerful early tides, back when the moon hung huge and close overhead, helped to stir the chemistry along the first shorelines, filling and draining tidal pools, and may even have helped coax the first life up out of the water and onto the land.
Think about what that means. The same companion whose loss we have been mourning this whole time may well have been the midwife of life itself. The great tides it raised washed through the first tidal pools, set the first rhythms, and drew the first restless creatures toward the shore. We may owe our entire existence to the moon.
It was born in violence, we believe. A world roughly the size of Mars struck the young molten Earth a glancing blow, and out of the glowing wreckage flung into orbit, our moon slowly took shape, more than 4 billion years ago. It has been with us, faithfully, every single night since, our oldest and steadiest neighbor.
Which is what makes its absence so quietly devastating. Not because the sky goes dark in a single night, but because so much of what we are, the tides, the seasons, the steady forgiving years, the soft silver light lying over the water, turns out to have been a gift we never once knew that we were being given.
We tend to think of ourselves as living on a planet that simply happens to have a moon. It might be far truer to say that we are the children of a partnership, two worlds that have shaped one another for over 4 billion years. And in this thought experiment, one of those two worlds has just been taken away.
So the next clear night, when the moon is up, stop and look at it properly. That quiet gray disk is steadying our seasons, breathing slowly through our tides, and lighting the paths that life has followed since long before it could walk. It is not scenery hung up there for our benefit. It never, ever was. Remove it, and we do not end overnight. We drift, slowly, gently, over unimaginable ages, into a darker, wilder, far less forgiving world. The moon, it turns out, has been quietly holding the door open for us this entire time, and we simply never once noticed the steady hand resting there upon the latch.
And that is the thought experiment for tonight. One quiet gray companion, and very nearly everything it secretly holds in place. If following a single impossible idea all the way down to its end is your kind of thing, then stay with us. And tell us this, down in the comments. What should we take out of the sky next?